Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Truth podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Wildcard weekend in the books. It is over. Mike, how's your weekend? How did you enjoy the wildcard games?
I mean, it was kind of a dud weekend, wasn't it? There really wasn't a lot of suspense. Washington, Tampa Bay, and that was a really good game. But other than that, I guess I got to start right at the end, what we watched last night. I know this isn't the first time this has happened in the NFL. I know this isn't the first team that's gone through it. But the sudden finality for the Minnesota Vikings is I'm still stunned by it. Here's a team that was 14-2 a little over a week ago, thinking about having designs on the number one seed and home field throughout the course of the playoffs. They lose to Detroit, and then they get swamped by the Rams, and just like that, it's over. Just like that. What
Incredible.
happened?
Yeah, incredible, right? They're sitting at 14-2 going into week 18 off a week 17 win, domination of what, the Green Bay Packers? And you're feeling like, hey, man, we're talking about, is Sam Darnold going to sign the Baker Mayfield deal? Will he sign with Minnesota? Will they trade J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah.
Kick him out of town. We've got our quarterback. What's going to happen here? You talk about going from the outhouse to the penthouse, because he's literally took a dump in his helmet.
Other way.
What'd I say?
They went from the penthouse to the outhouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he went from the outhouse to the penthouse and then back down to the outhouse.
The outhouse, yes.
Yeah, back down to the outhouse. Thank you for the correction. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, This is a guy that we thought was going to be a big-time player. Now, will he still get a contract? Probably. He'll probably still get a big deal. But ultimately, you know, you look at Minnesota's probably the best place for him right now, right? Familiar with the coaching staff, familiar with the scheme, familiar with everything. You can sign him to a deal, and it's about now the quarterback room. So, like, the quarterback room is not going to cost you a whole lot. You pay him you sign him to a 2-year, $50 million, whatever it is, right? 3-year, $25 a year, 3-year, $75 million deal with an out after the second year. And you say, hey, but you're still going to have to compete with J.J. McCarthy. And if J.J. McCarthy ends up beating you out, well, your quarterback room still is less than $30 million. So it's the overall room value. But man, he cost himself an opportunity. He cost himself a lot of money these last 2 weeks. And it's not just his fault. You know, I know Kevin O'Connell is a great coach and is probably going to be, one of the leaders and coach of the year. And, along with Dan Quinn from Washington, who should be right in there. Obviously, Dan Campbell from Detroit should be in there. But coaching matters. And he got his ass kicked against the Rams from a coaching standpoint. You saw a team with the Rams that knew, hey, listen, Brian Flores is going to bring blitz. He's going to bring pressure. We got to have a plan. The quick passing game. He had every level. He had a deep, intermediate, a quick outlet to get rid of the ball. Understood, hey, where we're protected, where we're not protected. When Matthew Stafford's got to throw the ball quickly. When he's protected, he can hold on to it and push it down the football field with a comeback or with a deep dig or whatever the case may be. And you saw one team completely prepared, the other team with the drop back passing, trying to push the ball down the field, and Sam Darnold taking 9 sacks. And I say it all the time, Mike, when you give up 9 sacks in a game, yeah, your offensive line struggled. Yep. Yeah, your quarterback struggled. But for me, your coaching staff sucked. They did not do a good job of protecting your offense. And listen, man, I don't care how many times you pat the ball, that damn thing ain't going to burp. It's not a baby. You got to have outlets. You got to get rid of the ball. You've got to have an option for your quarterback to dump that thing off and let that running back or let that wide receiver on the shallow catch and run. And I just don't think they had enough of that planned in this game plan. And Sam Darnold, I mean, and this is sad because you know how much I wanted Sam Darnold in Denver, how much I think of Sam Darnold, and I still think a lot of Sam Darnold. But these last couple of weeks, man, it did not go well for Sam. And you can I mean, I don't care how much you wash, you can't get the stench of the Jets off of you, right? You can take the quarterback out of the Jets, but you can't take the Jets out of the quarterback. And that was the most Jetty performance I've ever watched. So even we're talking about Minnesota and the Rams, and the Jets are going to catch strays for me, but they should. They deserve strays.
Do you think Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts out there last night? It wouldn't surprise me after.
Dude, did you watch him? He's like,
yeah.
Wow, what are we doing here?
Yeah. The Rams, I thought it was the potential was there for the Vikings to be walking into a real buzzsaw, because not only were they dealing with the maybe hangover from the Lions loss, not only were they playing a good team in the Rams, but you could also tell that with what's going on in LA with all those wildfires, there was a sense I don't know if you got it, that the Rams had that extra juice, that it was almost like they not only were playing in a playoff game, but they felt like they were playing for a cause bigger than themselves. Did you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure. It's one of the reasons, in our picks, I took the Rams. You inexplicably took Minnesota again. By the way, and I'm not one, that I'm not one to rub things in.
No.
You know that I am
Mr. Humility. You're humble.
Yeah, humble
as they come.
gracious winner. But I went 3-0 with our picks against the spread this week. You went 0-3, which pushes your record to 28-1. The definition of mediocrity.
Wow.
I am at 38-18-1.
Oof.
Almost 67%.
Hey, we might have to get you like an 800 number to do bets.
Yeah.
Call me right now. Yeah. I got my
call me right now. Guaranteed winner tonight. No, as soon listen, I'm going to tell you something. If I put money on this, it would pucker up instantly. So fast. I'd be 18-38.
Right.
Right. We go the exact opposite way. So I'm just going to enjoy it and going to, pat myself on the back and know that it means absolutely nothing.
This performance by the Rams, did you think they had this kind of game in them?
Yeah, one thing I always say, you live by the blitz, you're going to die by the blitz. And when you're a team that's going to bring pressure all the time, and you're playing against a team that understands how to deflect it, how to create instant answers for your quarterback, how to pick it up, and you have a veteran quarterback that understands it, it's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for making big plays on the offensive side of the ball. And I played for two teams over the course of my 12-year career that totally understood pressure, that worked on it all the time. And I'm telling you, man, from that standpoint, both running the ball and throwing the ball, love it when you decide to bring pressure, because we know what we're doing, and we got the people on the outside to eat you alive in one-on-one. And so, yeah, I love it. That's why I took the Rams more than anything else, is I thought Matthew Stafford, pressure, and Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, everybody in that organization says, man, the dude's the smartest receiver in football. He sits in the quarterback meetings. He knows the offense like the back of his hand. He understands everything. And so when you have those type of players, and Puka's been under his tutelage, so those guys are like they've got a different level of understanding of the game than most. You just had a sense that they were going to be able to exploit that pressure defense of Brian Flores, and they certainly did.
I don't want to make the Philadelphia win about A.J. Brown reading a book, like I know a lot of people are talking about it, but the Eagles, did they win convincingly enough for you, or does it matter?
Yeah, Mike, I assumed that the Philadelphia Eagles would be a little bit stagnant on offense. You can't sit your quarterback out for the majority of 3 weeks and think you're going to come in there and throw yourself back into a rhythm. And Listen, I was a little bit disappointed in the game planning. We just talked about the Rams game planning, short, intermediate, quick throws, the ability to get the ball out of your hand, the ability to boot your quarterback out and get him away from pressures, things of that nature. Like a game planning, like Sean McVay is just a game planning savant, and you saw the level of coaching. The student versus the master, and the master took the student to school. And that's, Sean McVay versus Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell was his understudy for a long time, the offense coordinator, and Sean McVay said, this is why I'm the master. So I go back over to the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, there is something about putting your quarterback in a situation after a long layoff with an injury that you have to get that guy into a passing rhythm. You have to set up the swing pass. You have to set up the screen. You have to set up the bubble. You have to set up the quick throws. You have to create that off the running game, the boot keep, get him into a rhythm. And I didn't think they did that enough, but here's where I was totally intrigued. Offensively, they were they got the opening kickoff, right? The fumble recovery, scored right away. And then they were just kind of milquetoast. And give Green Bay a lot of credit for what they were able to do. But that said, that defense of Philadelphia was incredible. They dominated that football game. They out-physicaled them on every play. When your starting guard runs on a trap, on a counter play, and your 250-pound linebacker in Nolan Smith just absolutely buckles his knee and dislocates his shoulder, you're like, uh-oh. One team came to play. One team physically whooped the other team, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles. And that stuff travels, Mike. When you can operate that way, when you can be physical on both lines of scrimmage, they've got that ability on the offensive side as well. And going back to the book thing, like the juxtaposition of two players. One guy, I'm not involved enough in the game plan. Look at me. I'm going to be on the sideline reading my book. Oh, I've done it plenty of times before. Ha, ha, ha. It's funny. The optics of it are shit. They're shitty optics, man. Yep. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can tell me. And everybody can come to his defense on that team. They should. They're his teammate. But that's shitty optics. And then there's another guy that plays running back for them that's just done it all season long. And when that dude wanted to get 2,000 yards in week 18, but the team said, hey, no, your health is more important, he acquiesced an all-time record for the good of the football team. He just acquiesced. One dude, all about me, the other dude, all about us. And ultimately, then he has a breakaway run. Could he have gone 70? There's nobody catching Saquon Barkley. Could he have gone 70 for another touchdown? Maybe set some playoff record in Philly. I don't know what the record is, but I'm sure Philly, it'd be a playoff record for yardage. What does he do? He takes it about 20, and then he sits down because the game's over. They don't want to pull a hamstring, don't want to get hurt, don't want to whatever, don't want to rub in their face. Like, that's what you're looking for. And you've got the juxtaposition of one guy that's about me and one guy that's about we. And if I was on the team, man, I would absolutely hate it. Would I say anything? No, because, it is what it is. But those are the type of things that just, for me, irritate. And then it would irritate, what would really irritate me, Mike? If I was playing in that Philadelphia locker room, it would irritate me that my head coach doesn't have balls enough to address it. Because it's happened before. It happened earlier in the season in Washington when he was producing. He had a decent game going on, like 9 catches, 80 yards or whatever, but it would bother me. It bothered me that we don't have the staff in place to address stuff like this.
Last week on this podcast, we were talking about the Packers, and we both agreed something just didn't feel right about this team. So now the season's over, what would be your message to Cheeseheads about what was missing and what needs to be found before next season?
Yeah, well, I mean, they got their starting speed wide receiver got knocked out the week before with an ACL, and then every receiver they had on their team got knocked out, and then offensive lineman. Their starting guard gets knocked out. And this is what I always say about how we structure salaries in the National Football League. And it's pretty incredible, right? So you lose one starting guard. And where are you saving money? On your backups on the offensive line. So now wait, we paid our quarterback, what, $200 million? Right? And we'll protect him with our starting five. But if one of those guys gets hurt, we're bringing in guys that shouldn't be in the NFL. The backup guard came in and got 3 holding calls right off the bat. I'm sorry, you're not going to overcome that. And then they had to replace their backup guard with another backup guard. Like, what are we doing? We're protecting $200 million assets with backup guys that probably shouldn't play in the league because we're saving money there. It is insanely stupid the way we operate as an organization, and not just the Green Bay Packers. I mean, as an NFL. And I go back to Roger Goodell going, hey, man, what are we going to do about all these quarterbacks getting injured? Oh, I don't know. Maybe put some pads on. Maybe teach our young guys how to play. Maybe, but we're not going to do that. We're going to eliminate practice, and we're going to eliminate contact, and we're going to eliminate all this other stuff that is paramount to actually being good up front. So get healthy. Come back. I think the Packers are a really good football team. I think Jordan Love is a really good quarterback. It just was one of those series of unfortunate events, and you got whooped by a more physical football team.
Moving along here, has this season, the way it finished, proven that Mike Tomlin is overrated? Like, you're talking about somebody now who has not won a playoff game since 2016. I joked before the season he's become the new Marvin Lewis. Look at Marvin Lewis's record in Cincinnati, 7 playoff games, 7 losses. But the Steelers have 2 playoff wins since 2011. And one came against the Bengals with A.J. McCarron as the starting quarterback. The other 2 came against the Dolphins with Matt Moore and the Chiefs with Alex Smith. So at this point, after a season that looked so promising that fell apart down the end, what's the current status of Mike Tomlin? What is he? Yeah. Who is he as a coach?
Steeler fans are upset. Steeler fans want to change. The organization, leans into continuity. Only 3 head coaches: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and obviously Mike Tomlin. So, I don't think there's going to be a change. I think my criticism would be this. You knew what Russell Wilson was.
Yep.
You knew what he's been for the last 4 or 5 years. You knew what he was coming in. And you're a 4-1 football team with a quarterback that's unpolished, to be sure, in Justin Fields, who is trying to improve, who gives you a element of deception and an ability to run, do the quarterback run stuff. And you could have stuck with that guy, and instead you made this change. And listen, man, for 4 or 5 weeks, yep, you caught lightning in a bottle when you were playing really crappy teams. Mm-hmm. And it looked really good. 5 straight losses, 4 of them by double digits, or 4 of them by double digits, I think, of their 5 straight losses. And now you're in the same position that you were in going into last offseason. You haven't figured out your quarterback spot. You know what? We have a local Denver show that you and I have done together for 8 years. And the 2 of us said, listen, this season is about one thing and one thing only in Denver, Colorado. Do you have the right guy playing quarterback? Mm-hmm. If you can establish that you've got the right guy playing quarterback, whether you win games, lose games, whether you go to the playoffs or you don't, if you can establish we found our guy, that's the whole goal of the season. You go into this season with an established defense. You lean on that defense. They play lights out till about when? Week 10, week 11, when the schedule starts getting tough and you see the battle of attrition, that playing defense that way and having your defense prop up an offense that's not productive, you see what that takes, the toll it takes on your defense. And ultimately, you fall down over the course, and now you come back to this coming off season, and you still haven't solved your quarterback issue. You've won 10 games. You went to the playoffs. You're not going to be able to draft one. What are you going to do as an organization? So you have no answers. Zero, and you're right back into the spot you were in. And Mike Tomlin's a damn good coach, and he'll coach them up, and they'll run the ball, and they'll defend the run, and they'll play stellar defense for about 12 weeks, and they'll win, games, and they won't be under 500, and they'll continue that streak of 16, 17 straight years without being under 500, and then they'll lose in the playoffs like they always do because they haven't found their quarterback, and they don't have a good enough team to win when you get to playoff football. And that's who they are. And my disappointment is, at least had I played Justin Fields through the entirety of the season, at least I would know. And you don't know. Mm-hmm. And maybe just at least you would know whether Justin could do it or not. You really don't know now. And right. I don't know. You're right. It just feels to me like you're right back in the same situation. Maybe you would have been anyhow. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I knew what Russ was. I've told you what Russ was for 3 years now, 4 years.
Yep. We'll get to Baltimore later in the week on the podcast when we look at Baltimore and Buffalo, which is going to be, just so much fun. Can't wait for that one. You and I like to joke about the Chargers in the past was that, hey, no matter what's going on, no matter how good it's going for the Chargers, at some point, Chargers going to Charger, right? We thought they had kind of fixed this with Jim Harbaugh, right? New day in Chargerland. But Mark, man, Chargers going to Charger.
Chargers going to Charger, man. I mean, Justin Herbert, 3 interceptions on the season, 4 in this game. Now, 2 of them right through the receiver's hands. And, the guy's ultimately had a bunch of different coordinators over the course of his, career, college, professional, whatever. New coordinator this year. And I love Jim Harbaugh, offensive lineman, the tip of the spear. We're going to run the ball and doing all that stuff. But ultimately, you get to playoff football, you got to have some weapons at the same time. And, you can go through Herbert's career and his playoff career, and you can match it to Peyton Manning's career, and it's almost identical. But there was a long, long time where people talked about Peyton Manning not being able to win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a long history of that. And playoff football is tough. And I've talked to you about this on this podcast, and, I get a lot of people ranting and raving that are Lamar stans. But Lamar was great last week in the playoffs. Doesn't matter. He was great the year before against the Houston Texans.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. If they run the ball like they ran the ball against Pittsburgh, they're gonna walk straight to the Super Bowl. Right?
Yep.
The issue is when somebody shuts down their running game, which inevitably has happened every year they've been in the playoffs, and Lamar has been asked to beat that team from the pocket as a drop back passer, he hasn't been able to do it.
Yep.
And his history was going into this playoffs 2-4, 57% completion percentage, 9 total touchdowns between pass and run, and 9 total turnovers. And ultimately, if they go into Buffalo and, run it like they did week 4 for almost 300 yards, like they'll win that game going away again. But that's not the narrative. That's not the question. And until Justin Herbert actually performs in the playoffs, the narrative will be this guy sucks come big time, big playoff game situation. And so ultimately, fair or unfair, it doesn't matter. It's just what the stats would tell you. It's just what the games would tell you. And until he overcomes that, That's the narrative.
Yep.
And it's totally fair.
Yep.
Just like it's totally fair to question whether Lamar can beat you if you shut down their running game, like Kansas City did last year when they chose to only give it to their running backs, 6 or 8 times, something of that nature?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Looking forward to talking about that game a little bit later on this week. Washington, man. I mean, you got to really be enjoying this renaissance. I mean, this is amazing. And man, Jaden Daniels, I know I watched CJ Stroud do a lot of this as a rookie last year, but it just seems like what Jaden Daniels doing is even to the next level. I can't remember the last time I saw a rookie do this.
Dude, it's incredible. And I did a couple Washington games earlier in the year. Like Dan Quinn would be the first to tell you, hey, man, we're not where we need to be yet.
Right.
Defensively, we don't have the personnel we need yet. Like, he'd be the first to tell you. And then this is the other thing that, like, this is incredible to me, right? So I get all these guys, and I do a show with Danny Parkins, here on Breakfast Ball, and it's young. We got to get young, innovative offensive coaches. Those are the guys that connect with players of today and this, that, and the other. And I'm always like, give me a freaking break. You can either communicate and you can either relate to people, or you can't communicate and can't relate to people. Like, being young is the only way that you can relate to younger people. I present Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
He's got a 24-year-old girlfriend. He's 72. He's relating. You know what I'm saying?
He's relating.
Very
relatable.
So very relatable, and obviously great communication.
That's right. That's
great communication.
I don't know what else it is.
Yes. So, but my point is, here's Dan Quinn, a retread, right?
Yeah.
A retread defensive coach who the people that like, and this is just part of like why I would like an offensive coach, because most offensive coaches are going to err on the side of being aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, i.e. Dan Campbell. Most defensive coaches are going to go, how do I protect my defense?
Right.
Let me protect my defense. You know what Dan Quinn says? Screw my defense. I'm going to let my young quarterback, my rookie quarterback, who's the best player on my team, go be you.
Yeah.
Nobody has gone for it on 4th down, I think, more than Washington. Nobody's had more success in that game 5 times. They converted 3. 5 times. So their 2 touchdown drives, one of their touchdowns to Terry McLaurin was on 4th down. One of their drives was extended on 4th down. That was a touchdown drive. So you've got an old, quote unquote, stodgy defensive guy who's anything but old and stodgy. Man, he is young. He is energetic. He loves, and he understands that, hey, man, the way we're going to win football games is not by protecting my defense. It's by balls out offense, and let this quarterback do what he does. And I love the fact that they opened up the game plan, Mike. I love the fact that they said, hey, listen, if we're going to win this thing, we're going to have Jaden Daniels on the edge, 3rd down and 1. Jaden Daniels, take it. Avoid the sack. Jaden Daniels, throw the ball on 4th down. Jaden Daniels, go make something happen for us. Jaden Daniels on the play action, scramble out, boot keep, throw the ball, run the ball. It was a masterclass in saying, who's our best player? How do we support our best player, and how do we just let our best player go out there and make some plays?
Hey, let's get to a couple of quick coaching moves. Mike McCarthy out in Dallas. Boy, it just seems like he'd be a perfect fit for Chicago, no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think so. Look what he's done. Like, he had 5 years in Dallas. I think he was 49 and 35. 3 straight years of 12 wins. And oh, by the way, let's not forget that a year ago, Dak Prescott was about to win an MVP. So you got a young quarterback in Chicago with a guy who's had success with young quarterbacks, developing quarterbacks. Yeah, it looks that way. But what is Dallas doing? First off, they don't let McCarthy interview last week with Chicago. They say no. And while they're saying no, and I guess I'm just assuming they were working on a contract with McCarthy and they couldn't come to an agreement, why they said no, they weren't interviewing Ben Johnson and a couple of the hot candidates out there. So now those interviews, they've got to wait on those interviews. Now they're talking to Deion Sanders of CU, and CU, Deion is like, I love CU. I love being here. I love the campus. I love the people. I love the administration. I love my football team, but I also love Jerry Jones, and I also love Dallas, and I love all these things.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones, Jerry Jones, the bottom line, my takeaway is they will never win in Dallas under Jerry Jones because winning is not a priority. Like, if you're going to coach the Dallas Cowboys is not a good job.
No.
The Dallas Cowboys is one of the 32 jobs in the National Football League, but you're not going to be allowed to pick your players. You're not going to be allowed to pick your coaching staff. You're not going to be empowered to run the team. It's Jerry's team, and Jerry's got a Netflix special coming out. And in the Netflix, like the tease is out, right? The trailer's out, and he goes, hey, this is about a soap opera, being a soap opera, and it's about 365. Like, dude, of course Deion would make perfect sense because the soap opera, he is the greatest. Jerry Jones is P.T. Barnum, the greatest show on earth. That's what he is. And so this is not about winning championships or putting a winning football team out there. If winning is a byproduct of creating a great soap opera, I love it. So be it. But it's not the priority. The priority is having our name in the news at all times. And you know what? I can't knock him from the standpoint of that franchise go year over year. It goes, year over year, it just churns money. Year over year, the value increases what? 15, 20, 25%. It's worth over $8 billion right now. Mm-hmm. So he's doing something right.
He's doing something right because here we are getting ready for divisional weekend. And I know on your show, you were talking a ton about the Cowboys and Jerry and Deion. And, here in Denver, we were talking a lot about it from the Deion angle. But, that Dallas, the way that Jerry sets it all up, it just sucks so much attention into that orbit. Finally, the Patriots go back to one of their legends, Mike Vrabel, after a year off in New England. Good move?
Yeah, I think it's a good. I think Mike Vrabel is a hell of a football coach, and he's got some of that Belichickian, snark and the way he deals with the media and everything else. But I think he relates well to his players. And I think ultimately the big thing that Mike Vrabel will bring, regardless of your quarterback and everything else, and they've got a young one that they really like there, they will be a physical, run it down your mouth football team on both sides of the ball. And one thing that travels, and we saw it last night, we saw it throughout these playoffs, if you win the line of scrimmage, you win in the playoffs. You win football games. And Mike Vrabel consistently with Tennessee won the line of scrimmage. He was a coach of the year in 2021 or whatever it was. He's big time that way. He knows what wins. He knows about trench warfare, and I've always appreciated that about his football teams.
All right. Well, we will look forward to the divisional matchups, and we'll break those down a little bit later in the week.
All right. For everybody involved in the Stinkin podcast, we appreciate you guys watching. For Mike, I am Mark. Thank you for downloading, subscribing, doing all the things you do. Please share it with everybody. And we appreciate you guys being a part of it. We'll be back later on in the week on Thursday to make our divisional round picks, where I will continue. I'll continue to put a Shawshank Redemption Sisters on Andy Dufresne whipping on my boy Mike.
I might just have to wave the white flag.
Yeah, just give in.
Give in.
Just it's easier that way. All right, for everybody involved, man, have a great, great, great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you guys later on in the week.